One of the famous neighbors of Coyoacán was the engineer Miguel Angel de Quevedo, who lived in this house known as Casa del Sol, which means sun house. It was named after the celestial star made of stone on the facade. The house dates from the 18th century and originally belonged to the Pensacola family ranch, after whom a nearby street is also named. However, beyond the antiquity of the house, its relevance is due to the person who lived there at the beginning of the 20th century, Miguel Ángel de Quevedo, also known as the Apostle of Trees. Engineer de Quevedo was the first person in Mexico to call attention to deforestation and environmental preservation. He was born in Guadalajara in 1862 into a family of landowners. A situation that allowed him to study in France both his high school and a career in civil engineering, specializing in hydraulic engineering at the Polytechnic Institute of Paris, where he graduated in 1887. From his studies in France, he learned that the deforestation of the forests contributes to floods, causing greater havoc during the rainy season, thus destroying crops and putting the lives of the inhabitants at risk. This is because trees would normally act as a kind of natural dam. From that discovery, and after his return to Mexico, he dedicated himself to raising awareness about this problem. At the end of the 19th century and beginning of the 20th century in Mexico, and especially in the outskirts of the city, the growth of the city and the development of industrial colonies in places such as San Angel, Tlalpan, or Magdalena Contreras began to cause the deforestation of the surrounding forests. Also, over-exploitation of the land through poor agricultural practices began to erode farmland. Miguel Ángel de Quevedo sought to combat such dangers after being appointed head of the Forestry Office of the Secretariat of Agriculture in 1903. His plan consisted at first of generating nurseries throughout the city, the pioneer of which was the Coyoacán nursery. Moreover, following the example of the United States, he founded national parks in Milpa Alta, Xochimilco, Cumbres de Maltrata, and Pico de Orizaba to preserve the environment. In 1908, he founded the Mexican Forestry School in the Leones Desert, with the intention of training young Mexicans as foresters and forestry engineers. Unfortunately, the outbreak of the revolution momentarily stopped his plans. Among them was to create a forest park in the then territory of Quintana Roo to protect the mangroves and jungle. Miguel Ángel de Quevedo was expelled from the country by President Victoriano Huerta in response to the support he had expressed for Francisco Madero. After living in the United States, he returned to Mexico in 1917, and especially to his beloved home in Coyoacán. It was in this house where on November 11, 1921, he founded the Mexican Forestry Society, whose mission was to defend the country's flora, and especially to create policies that would protect the environment. In his inaugural speech, Miguel Ángel de Quevedo said, "For the welfare of humankind, it is essential to protect water and the spontaneous vegetation of the soil, the so-called forest vegetation, without which human life is impossible." De Quevedo was right. It is also in this house where in 1915, the then President of Mexico, Venustiano Carranza, made the first drafts to call for a constituent Congress, from which a new Magna Carta would later emerge. Although the plaque on the facade mentions that this is where Carranza wrote the 1917 Constitution, the information is erroneous, because the President did not write the Constitution, but rather, this was the process of several delegates, who met at the end of 1916 and the beginning of 1917 in Querétaro. Despite this, the legend endures. This house is private and is not open to the public.